World Development System. Chapter 191. Currently at the outskirts of North Frontier City, at the factory. Saran was ordering the men to move the cannons in steady order which were to be sent to the borders of North and West. One of the dwarves commented after watching the cannons leaving their factory with a huge sigh of relief, "Finally they are being moved after such a long time. I thought they would never be used and were just made for decorations while occupying space day after day." Saran nodded enthusiastically and answered, "Yes, we only got orders from the capital to move them. Lord has personally given his orders. It's good that we already are well beyond our quota of production, which would be good news to everyone." Redbeard came and commented, "Don't relax just yet, kid, this is just the start. These are just the warning bells. You guys should stop your chattering and get back to work immediately. Increase the production of cannons, rifles, and ammunition. I will be treating all of you if can finish my quotas within today's deadline." Saran smiled cheekily and answered with other guys present, "Yes, Boss Red." Gray immediately came with a report after having his meeting with Liam. Gray sighed as he smoked after getting some news of all the mercenary groups rejecting their offer. He immediately got Taylor and John for a meeting. "My lord, it seems there is only one group who is ready to align with us. It looks like others are pretty much sure of our defeat and don't want to cross the royal family after they have deployed Commander Irwin in the north. However, the ones who are ready to do our bidding would surprise you. As for our problem of recruiting mercenaries, it is the head of glorious explorers who have foiled our plan. Another reason is the connection of mercenaries with nobles, and hence they are unwilling to align. Not to mention that we are directly affecting their interests since we don't intend to keep slaves in the future. It looks like they want to teach us a lesson." John nodded and understood. "Well, it was expected anyway, we are only trying our luck. Who is it that wants to work with us?" Gray answered, "It's Liam, the head of Hell's Playground Mercenaries." Taylor was surprised and asked him immediately, "Whoa, I never expected him to work with us. Did you ask him why he intended to work with us since all the others have refused to work with us?" Gray scratched his head and spoke, "Well, he says that he is going by instincts. Even I too don't understand his mentality. However, as far as I know, he will take any kind of work as long as he gains from it in the form of power or immense wealth. He always worked that way." John nodded as read the official letter. "Well, it's okay, we can sell him our armors and mulberry cement. This would be better for us since Radiant Church would have one less pawn in their hands." Taylor immediately asked with a worried face, "What if they become our enemies?" John looked at Taylor and answered, "We have our cannons and improved ballistas to deal with them, not to mention our guns. And we are anyway not going to provide them our best armors. So we don't need to worry. Are you guys clear?" "Yes, my lord." Irwin rambled as he headed to Greedos with the royal army. "Damn, those courtiers had to send me to this god-forsaken place, and then that Luke had to give me such bad news. It seems that Count already got scared of my presence and hence a huge build-up at the borders. I was quite happy at the western borders dealing with half-beastmen and the new cannons. Can't they simply send that shrewd guy Bellion?" Irwin's subordinate came near him as he brought him some news. "Lord, Prince Hector and Baron Antonio Mendez want to meet you. They just arrived from the capital and wanted to greet you on your new appointment." Irwin thought a bit and agreed as he was informed by courtiers of the current situation of Northern Domain. "Tell them, they can come and meet me in my camp near Greedos. Let's see, what do they have to say?" Irwin's subordinate answered cautiously, "Lord, there is one more problem." Irwin furrowed his brows as he heard of problems as soon as he entered the Northern Domain. "What is it now?" The subordinate cautiously answered as he knew the temper of Lord Irwin and tried to explain in a calm manner. "Lord, Count John targeted the mercenaries today. Not a single one of them was left alive. I think this was a well-formulated plan which was made in advance and not an abrupt decision. However, all the men were killed without a single prisoner of war by the Devil General, Anik ever burning as proclaimed by the mercenaries. However, the main problem is that they invaded Dolores as they chased to kill the mercenaries. So this was practically just a slap in the face of the royal family after their recent sanctions against Count John. How do we deal with this provocation? Erwin stroked his china and rubbed his bald head and spoke, "This count is quite a character to defy the imperial family with such a small army. Now, fighting such a count and a general would be fun. Their only advantage of ballistas will be no more with our magic ballistas which are more superior to them. We better not reveal it in an earlier stage. Let's see how he flails with such a small army against us. I think Prince Hector can use the invasion as a pretext to attack them. This time, we aren't making the first move. As for that count, I don't think he was aware of the decisions made at imperial capital. Additionally, getting offended by this would just drag us first in this mud of war. Let others use up the forces of that count." The subordinate sighed and spoke, "Okay, my lord." Hector and Antonio were preparing for their meeting with Lord Erwin. Antonio asked Hector, "Prince, what do you think about the steps taken by Count John? The situation is quite alarming if they do these sorts of operations every day. That general of theirs is a barbarian just like their naval admiral Blake. No, he is worse than him, even he had some mercy for his enemies. This time, not a single man was left alive. At least Blake would deliberately let the running army leave so that they can speak about his actions." Prince Hector had a serious face as he spoke, True, it's quite alarming that not a single mercenary was able to escape their hunting. This guy seems a lot more sinister who isn't really interested in fame as he tried to kill all of his enemies and almost succeeded in it. However, that count and this general can't do anything now that father has already made his move. From now on we will shelter all the mercenaries in our borders. If Count John's men try to invade when they try to catch mercenaries, we will simply fire at them in the name of invasion. Legally there won't be any problems for us if we attack them. Also, advise the mercenaries to escape near the posts that have ballistas installed in it. Father has already sent my next batch of 100 ballistas with Commander Erwin. If Count John invades, then General Erwin would also have the pretext to invade them. Come, let's meet Commander first. He will leave for northern barracks near Dolores at northwest later on. This is our only chance to meet him before anything big happens. That count can't do anything now that the port is blocked. His trade with elves is now null and void with that blockade, so this is a good chance for us to forge relationships. I will try to get Duke Norman in confidence and try to rally forces at Eastern Port and Dolores since an invasion of Duke's domain took place. Since Count John never gave his allegiance to the Duke, Duke can claim that invasion from Count John's men took place in his domain. This count must die. He is really becoming a big bone that will interfere in my future path of becoming a king if he is kept alive. I have already offended him big time. We will try all of our means this time around. As for Eastern Port, you don't have to worry, I have already ordered a part of our ballistas to be transferred to Eastern Port. I understand that Count John may become impatient and invade the port if push comes to shove, and hence the precautions. Currently, I think their vessels are roaming the small islands without any resources. This would also be a good time for Duke Fjord to start acting. Antonio slapped his forehead and remembered, I almost forgot that they also built those ballistas which they confiscated from the ships of Duke Rose. I think already made a prototype. Now I understood why you wanted to collaborate with Duke Fjord. You are such a genius, Prince Hector. Alistair spoke after hearing all of them out. Prince, what if this a ploy by Charlie to get you involved in this mess we did just now? I think we should take our decisions carefully. From the way that Count reacted to mercenaries, it seems he isn't really afraid of anyone. I don't hope we face such a fate. Just that previous action from Count is enough for me to understand that this Count doesn't play with words when it comes to dealing with his enemies, he simply acts. He is just insane like Prince Lukov. Who knows if it was the order of Count to kill all the mercenaries? My instists say the same. You may be okay with Prince Lukov since you were never on his list, but those who faced Prince Lukov's barrage know the fear he created when the country burned for 3 months. I think we should deal with the same caution against this Count. As soon as Prince Hector heard Alistair, the previous words of Charlie rang again in his ear, which irritated him to no extent. You can take your own decisions, right? Hector made an irritating face and spoke after hearing Alistair's advice. That Count Enlukov? That Count is simply an entertainer with a small of land. We don't need to fear anything. The last assault too was done by his general. You should know that even generals can be bought. It's good that he is not a warlord. As for a ploy of Charlie? Who do you think you are? I took this decision carefully after thinking of the consequences. The very advantage of that Count is long gone, with no access to the sea, while the royal family already has the ballistas. We will take aggressive decisions against that Count from now on. With this one move, I have made his deal with the elves null and void, while father has sent troops at the north at the pretext of the last event at Greenwood's village. And you call this a ploy of Charlie instead of checkmate and a master plan against that Count? Humph, do you really understand what is going on? As for your advice, keep it to yourself, and you should understand your own position. You are only a butler and an advisor. I can make my own decisions. Alistair was quite surprised as he heard this rant from Prince Hector. He thought, what happened to Prince Hector after his meeting with Prince Charlie? He has changed quite a lot and is rebutting me a lot since then. This usually didn't happen previously. Prince doesn't understand that we will become the casualty of this war if we fight head-on with that Count. I need to talk to Duke Norman and delay this as much as we can. Is this the ploy of Charlie to alienate me from Prince and consolidate power during this turmoil? Alistair sighed and followed Hector. Antonio laughed as he saw the scene and showed a mocking face. He was planning to take Alistair's position in the near future. He thought, a mere slave forgets his position and thinks he is something just because his lord favors him. How can he hope to achieve the same status as a noble? I will become a marquis or a duke following Prince Hector in wars. Prince Hector simply smiled and headed to meet General Irwin, who was then followed by Antonio. Alistair sighed as he followed them. I hope they don't mess it up because of their fragile egos. Chapter 192. Antonio immediately greeted General Irwin as he entered his camps. Welcome to the Northern Domain, General Irwin, the Desert Fox. I hope you have an enjoyable stay here. Go leave with glory and honor. General Irwin nodded and spoke to exert his domination and intimidation to the newcomers. From my understanding, you guys are here for an important meeting and not some silly chat, right? So get to the point. Antonio furrowed his brows a bit but still continued as he understood that Prince Hector can't answer him or he will lose at the start. Of course, General. We will get straight to the point. I understand that you already know about the decimation of Goldrush mercenaries and hence agreed to have a meeting with us. We hope to have a solution against that arrogant Count. Even though we have blocked the ports and land routes for normal food trade, that Count is still as arrogant as ever. Not even a bit of subservience to the royal family. I don't think he will obey the sanctions, will try to bypass the sanctions, one way or the others. Prince Hector joined and spoke. I think after making this attack on mercenaries he has also very much made his stance clear regarding the royal family's decree in the previous Justice Department's verdict. I hope we can teach him a lesson again. I am pretty sure that Count must have known about royal family's decree by his spies, but instead, he has tried to pass it off since he didn't know anything about it. Irwin understood that Prince Hector wanted him to act. He shook his head and spoke in a serious tone. Well, I think this was an attack which was planned for a long time. I don't think it has any relation to our unilateral sanctions which were announced today. We are only here to mediate and take action when the time is right. Prince Hector understood his meaning and asked for Irwin's confirmation, as he didn't try to pursue his previous goal of goading Irwin in a war. What if that Count invaded our land in his last attack? Do you think you can ignore our raids since we are only retaliating? Irwin smiled and gave his own interpretations. Of course we won't interfere unless there are some big events affecting the kingdom taking place. We are only here to prevent and if necessary take actions against the guys who massacred the whole Greenwoods village. The very fact that Count John's general killed every single man from the mercenary groups, I think they might very well be the people who massacred the village. However, we will investigate and then decide upon it. We will close an eye when you guys retaliate against Count John with your regular armies in the future, as that general is quite dangerous. I hope our troops can meet when Count John invades you guys again so that we can cooperate. I think you guys should talk to other mercenary groups. You guys should go for now, my men will be leaving for Northern Barracks. Give Duke Norman and your fiancée, Mary Norman, my regards. Erwin dismissed the meeting after watching his subordinate signal him about an important matter which needed his presence. Prince Lukhov's action against Felix after King's declaration. As soon as Lukhov read King's declaration, he had a smile on his face and gave an order to Duncan. It seems, Hector has finally crossed the red line. Very well, start the operation. This would be the best time to surprise Father, the Radiant Church and the whole continent. The whole continent should know how Lukhov never forgets and takes his revenge. I want Felix alive, he will wish death if I ever caught him. Those guys at the Radiant Church have to choose between supporting Fjord and Charlie or support Felix. Duncan cautiously asked, Sir, what do you think about Charlie? Lukhov smiled and shook his head, nothing, just a cunning kid. Well, I won't blame him since he is a son of a maid and hence trying all the means available to consolidate power. As long as he doesn't affect my interests, it's all good. The next day the king furrowed his brows as he read a report on the attack to mercenaries. King Lionheart asked Defense Minister Plato as they were into a meeting, who is this new general, Anak the Ever-Burning? I never heard of this guy. Do you have any info? From the way, he killed off all of his enemies, not even sparing a single mercenary. This guy is quite ruthless, or does he have some history that he has so much hatred against the mercenaries? Minister Plato sighed in frustration and spoke, No, my lord, even I heard about this guy for the first time. The guy is fully covered in mystery. I think he is a demon from the Blucia family. There are also rumors circulating that he is a demon. From the rumors, it is also said that he is the strongest guy in the ghosts and hence he was chosen to lead their army instead of Diril, Jake, Jay, or Gray. His subordinate Arlen himself is as strong as Gray. That guy Arlen was a vagabond and used to do odd jobs while sometimes also coordinate with mercenaries if they matched his goals. Previously he worked with Hell's Playground mercenaries when it came to fighting against the barbarians when the barbarians' deputy killed his friend in the western domain. However, he left after he killed the deputy and was on his own. That was the time when Hell's Playground capitalized on it. However, there is some good news from North Frontier City. What is it? Plato nodded and spoke. It seems Dwight was able to get close to Grand Podi Wunner Melanie after getting her approval yesterday. I think he can get the formulas very early from them. Lionheart had a grim face as he spoke. I hope it doesn't end like the previous incident where she killed her kin. Okay, continue to keep a watch. I don't really care about those mercenaries. It's good that they are playing the role of cannon fodder instead of royals. They are anyway a nuisance to my rule. Tell Erwin not to interfere as long it gets escalated to the levels where we have an opportunity to strike and get something out of it. Plato nodded and left as he downed the orders, As you wish, my lord. I will convey your orders to General Erwin. Fjord read a report and furrowed his brows as he asked his men in a serious tone, Why can't we find their dwelling till now? How were you guys not able to chase them with faster ships? And who is this new guy called Anak? I never knew that they got such a general in their ranks. Jonas came with a report and answered, Lord, those guys that traveled to the northern waters where there are wild beasts who become quite aggressive, which is very problematic to us. In addition to that, there is a risk of the full fleet dying with those guys if they chose to fight in those waters, and hence we kept a big distance with them. We never imagined that would dare to travel so deep in the north. It is all that guy, Blake's fault. Last time as well he escaped there when we chased him with the royal family. As for the new general, there is no information on him apart from the fact that he is called Anak, the Ever-Burning. I think he is the strongest guy in the ghosts and hence he was chosen to lead them from the front by Count John. There is some good news though. Currently, we are able to make those ballistas. However, the costs are huge and performance is not comparable to those ballistas possessed by our enemies. We were only able to achieve a 50% performance. When we used magic metals we were able to achieve 80% performance. I think there are a lot of aspects which we aren't able to fully grasp. Using magic metal would mean a lot of burdens, however it is suitable for us now. I would suggest that we shouldn't arm the magic knights with magic metals but go with the production of ballistas for now. Fjord gave his order as he had his own thoughts. He was in good mood as a big problem got off his shoulders after a ban on Eastern Port. Now, we will go with half and a half for magic metal ballistas and magic knights. We anyway have enough to arm our army. I am sure Aaron can catch them in the sea now as they won't have supplies for long. Jonas didn't raise his objection as he thought, we will die before even reaching them. Aaron meanwhile was thinking, it's good that we were able to make a deal with Duke Norman, this way we will again regain our supremacy in the seas. The next day, Jay immediately gathered with the army at the northeastern part where they decided to clear a way through the forest to Winter City base and make a safe route. It was early in the morning where the area was closed off by his personnel in the name of building a military factory. John already gave his decree to Jay so that there won't be any problems with civilian authorities as this was a very important matter of connecting North Frontier City Winter City Aurora Island. Chapter 193. To give an idea of geography. North of Elias Kingdom North Frontier City. Northeast of North Frontier City Winter City. East at the Sea of Winter City Aurora Island. For visiting. On the Northeast operations. One of the veterans exclaimed after watching the firepower of cannons, I never thought we would witness such weapons that could literally shred such dangerous animals in a whole group. Who made such an incredible weapon? This is at least 10 times more powerful than the ballistas. Those with runes can't even be compared, to be honest. With these cannons, we can even fight against the Dragon Knights. Another soldier nodded and agreed with him, true, no wonder, we weren't allowed to leave until we finished this operation and the reason why the minister had confidence in clearing out the forest to northeast in a few days. One of the rookie soldiers murmured, damn, what are these animals? I think only the strongest magic knights or magicians could fight against these beasts. If not for these cannons, we would be sweating to clear every inch of this forest. Those Draco elephants and golden fast lions are the biggest menaces for the whole operation. Those Draco elephants are such a hard time to deal with because of their stampede marches. Not a single soul can survive that stampede unless they have enormous power or speed. As for those lions, they are quite cunning and always try to attack from the blind spots. Another guy answered in a serious tone, true, it would get more dangerous as we go deep into the forest. I am only worried about the more agile beasts who can cause harm to our army. However, I think this armor, the cannons, and our 7.6 mm assault rifles will be sufficient if we face an attack from them. The third guy irritatingly spoke, 7.6 mm. I really wonder why do we have so many different types of rifles? Can't we simply have the best rifles? The first guy laughed and answered, it's all well as long as it works against our enemies. One of the veterans sighed as he heard their gossip, these guys are marveling about these beasts but don't understand the significance of these cannons. I guess they are adapted too much because of continuous weapon development and nagging about this. Jay roared as he heard the gossiping of the rookies, stop your gossiping and prepare for the next assault. We will be encroaching the forest little by little with affecting natural life dramatically and make a base 100 kilometers deep into the forest. From there we will go east and connect to Winter City. The faster you complete this mission, the faster we can go home. I want to complete this as fast as possible. And stop your nagging, you guys are quite lucky to handle the ballistas and cannons. Jay thought as he roared, it seems these cannons are quite powerful, especially the runic cannons. I guess we will finish it quite early. All of the soldiers answered immediately including those 3 rookies, yes, sir. Their operations continued step by step while the same was happening at Winter City which was being managed by Rose. Currently, he was fortifying the base at Winter City. One of the subordinates came with a report. Sir, a lot of wild beasts in the forest are in panic and coming to our borders. How do we handle it? Ross thought as he heard his subordinate, it seems Lord has accelerated and started invading from the northern side. I guess we need to start as well. This would be much better for us. Ross gravely ordered in a strict manner, no need to ask, fire the ballistas at will without any restraint if those beasts invade us, we can't abandon this base to those wild beasts. If possible we will start connecting to North Frontier City from today onwards. I am sure all of you miss North Frontier City already. Yes, it's decided, we will start preparing from today. The subordinate laughed and answered, ha ha ha, good. Sir, I am sure everyone would be happy after hearing your orders for the first time. Ross furrowed his brows a bit and asked, what? The subordinate left without even hearing Ross's rebuttal. Am I a bad head? Nat, I am overthinking. Ross sighed and got back to make his preparations. Joe's ship recently reached the shores of Aurora Island. At the ship, Joe was shocked to find Elisa on board with him. When he heard of the blockade at the port as soon as he entered the ship from other sailors, he was more saddened only to be surprised later by Elisa. In their quarters. Elisa smiled as she got aggressive with Joe, it's good that we are together, who knows how much time it would have taken if it weren't for Lord. You know I am quite an impatient person. Joe laughed a bit, nodded and spoke with a grave tone after hearing about the situation. However, the situation this time seemed serious as that Baron finally took some action. I heard from sailors that something big will happen since some orders came at the eastern port as our ships left. Elisa smiled as she bit her lips and spoke seductively, let's leave this sad topic. For now, we have just married. Now, it is time for important matters. As dense as Joe was, he seriously asked her, what sort of important matters? Am I missing something? Elisa irritatingly looked at Joe and spoke with an angry tone, you really are stupid. Without explaining anything to him she pounced on him and kissed him as their love-making session started. She thought as she kissed him, I wonder if this war is a good or a bad thing or else he would have taken a lifetime to propose me. Joe thought seriously as Elisa kissed him, what has gotten into her? It's 3 times already today. Well, it's all good. Let's leave my thoughts about Aurora Island and North Frontier for later. NF City North Frontier City. Chapter 194. Currently, Tim was heading Aurora Island while Ross was handling Winter City for connecting Aurora Island and North Frontier City. Both of them were quite busy with their work. As free as Swan was because of frequent hunting in the forest. Swan asked Tim as he arrived on his Aurora horse. Swan greeted him who was currently at the shipyard and asked, hey, what are you doing now kiddo, and what is this weird design you are looking? Without looking Tim answered, just a type of ship, it's called Tartane by Lord. Currently, I am studying its design. You should play with those brats, don't disturb me while I am busy. Swan murmured as he heard him, damn, this guy is just behaving like those old men. Tim furrowed his brows as he looked at Swan and spoke, you should leave, I know why you came here, I am not giving you any more bullets for your fun games, everyone will get their daily specified quota which includes you. After the last time you leaked it to others that I gave you bullets, everyone else started demanding extra bullets which only increased mine and my men's work. Shoo, go away. I ain't entertaining you from now onwards. Swan smiled and cursed him, geez, such a cheapskate, what will he do hoarding so many bullets day after day? And those men at the factory too are such cheapskates, always following laws and orders. I better harass those brats Julius, Clay, and Azrael. Or maybe I should try stealing them from Tim's chamber later on. Recently, due to frequent chases by the royal family and Duke Fjord, the travel time of ships had increased due to their tailing and them trying to shake off their pursuits by going into dangerous regions. Tim was pretty much used to life at Aurora Island due to all the talented kids training here with Jake. I hope Master makes those steam engines early on so I can show the real power of these ships. He thought as he continued observing the various ship designs. Clay asked as he spotted Julius reading a newspaper. "What are you reading, Julius?" Julius responded without a hitch and continued reading. "Nothing, just the newspaper." "What brings you today?" Clay looked at Julius making a face as if he was disgusted by him and his betrayal. "When did you become so boring like the other old men? Don't we already have enough young old men in our training group, with that Jake already? While there isn't even a sign of Lord or Master Vlad." Julius ignored him as he read about the latest attack by North Frontier Town on the mercenaries. He thought, "It seems, we got a new general. I will certainly fight under this man. The next we travel I will make sure to make that bastard Swan unconscious and take his place." He asked Clay suddenly, "I guess it is because of the problems we are facing currently. They might be busy already. Meanwhile, did you read about our new general?" Clay made a disgusted face and spoke, "Nope, why would I read like old men? But I certainly heard about him from the sailors at the port. They were quite happy with the new general and his actions. He is a straight hit among the sailors at port currently. Captain Judd particularly is quite hyped up." Julius asked him as he thought he might have some information from the sailors. "I heard a new General Irwin was appointed by the royal family. Did you hear anything about him?" All hair on Clay's half-tiger beast body stood up as he heard about Irwin. "Yeah, a ruthless person who would kill civilians or sell them with no guilt. At least when they are half-beastmen. He is certainly the same like those trash at the Radiant Church." Julius didn't continue the topic as he understood the mood after hearing Clay's tone. "I guess I need to be stronger than Swan if I want to take part in the battle against Fjord. That bastard is quite cocky as he is able to ride those Aurora horses. I am just a few days away from doing the same. Maybe I should ask Azrael as he might know something about him." Juan was grumbling as he couldn't get any answers in North Frontier Town in these few days while Lily was enjoying the time of her life at North Frontier City. He grumbled, "Why are these guys at administrative headquarters so tight-lipped? Whenever I tipped the guys at Capital, they would easily speak out all the deep hidden secrets. These guys instead kicked me out, or is it because of my identity? Do they know about me being part of Fjord's army before?" Bridge smiled and answered as he saw Juan grumbling, "Well, it's correct, it is as you think. They most likely know about our involvement in the previous battle. You should try getting your answers in the Rose University as they too have a lot of information with a lot of rumors as well. Try becoming a student and it may help you anyway. You might as well find the truth buried with the rumors." Professor Glenn from university is also in charge of black and white publishers, so he may know a few secrets about this war as he is close to Interior Minister Taylor. Try making relation with Glenn and speak truthfully about your past, then he may speak and leak you a few secrets. Lily came over and brought them forcibly to the square where the shop was located. "Hey, what are you guys gossiping about? Come, there is a new jewelry shop opened by Blue Paradise. They have the latest designs just like their clothes." Bridge thought irritatingly as he remembered about the prices at this shop and spoke unknowingly in an ill-mannered way. "Blue Paradise? Isn't that the most expensive cloth shop in this city? Why would any sane person go there to buy clothes?" Juan slapped his forehead and thought, "And you wonder why would I hang out with you? Of course, it is to protect my wallet. Though the pay in this city is good, I am spending more as well because of all these robber shops." Bridge laughed as he ditched him and reminded him of the previous conversation. "Ha ha ha, okay, see you later. You should think about my proposal." Juan thought as he forcibly entered the high-end shop with Lily, "Maybe I should consider his proposal." Juan looked at Blue Paradise as if he was disgusted. "This time, I would again be forced to spend on this establishment which has bewitched my girlfriend. Last time it was clothing and now it's jewelry. Well, the innerwears they sell are quite good in quality. I guess should thank Lily for introducing me to this shop. I just hope she isn't bewitched by other items." The salesman at the shop smiled as he saw his frequent customer, which Juan hated. However, he was forced to smile as he didn't want to upset Lily. "Welcome to our establishment, Miss Lily, Master Juan." Juan grumbled and thought, "I hate the guts of this salesman. John again led his men to clear off the mercenaries today. I hope every one of you is prepared. Today, though the royal family has made their move and deployed their armies near our borders, you shouldn't worry about them as long as your general is present. When I accepted this operation, I had vowed that I will end this menace of mercenaries plaguing our domain even if it means to defy everyone. Now, this is the time they will feel the real pain of a common man when he is powerless against them. This time John was prepared and came with 2,500 men with the best version of their ballistas. Amber roared as he heard his speech, "Glory to General Anak! Glory to the Count! Glory to the people of the North Frontier domain! Death to those mercenaries and their masters!" Others joined Amber and started their march again. Duke Friedrich received a letter from Melanie and read it, which only had some words written on it. The letter read, "I won't let you succeed in your plan after reading that letter of Vlad. He will be my son-in-law." Duke Friedrich roared as soon as he read the letter, "Damn, that hag is challenging me? Humph, since even she thinks that this guy is worthy, then I will make sure that he is mine even if those old guys stop me. So what if my son-in-law is a human? As long as my daughter loves him, he will be as good as my son." Elder Ryan spoke from the chambers as he heard Friedrich's ramblings, "You can't leave now and you should already know why. As for that child Diana, let her remain there under Vlad's security. I don't want further problems when you leave. You should already know what is Draco planning." Friedrich smiled and teased Ryan, "So even you believe Vlad more than our own security? Where are the other old guys? As for Draco, I can be bothered about his schemes." Elder Ryan humphed and answered, "Well, facts and emotions can't be entangled. As for Vlad, everyone knows his record and hence no doubts. Even my emotions can't deny that. As for others, I don't really care as long as they work for the betterment of the domain. You anyway can't leave. Don't expect to complete the shit you leave behind. You just want a reason since you don't want to work." Friedrich thought as he heard him, "Damn this old man and his instincts. Well, I can't leave for now after watching armies at western borders." In the southwestern roads of North Frontier City, John was leading his troops in a calm manner. The mercenaries today were especially cautious, forming groups to raid big caravans. However, today not a single caravan passed through, as if they knew that something was going to happen. The mercenaries were on a lookout for Count John's men. After noticing this anomaly, on the orders of their superiors, they would run as soon as they spotted John and his men. They knew that something big would still happen like yesterday, and hence the cautiousness. John intended to cut off small groups one by one, but who knew that mercenaries had formed a big base at southwestern borders near Prince Hector's domain at Dolores. John was only able to kill a few mercenary groups who were unaffiliated or didn't know the situation. John furrowed his brows as he saw the problem. Chapter 195. John spoke gravely after looking at the situation. "It seems all of them have formed some kind of pact with each other from the way they are moving today. Why do I smell the conspiracy of other nobles behind this alliance? It's good that I left Arlen at the borders today. It looks like these mercenaries plan to do some mischief today. Marsh and you guys, go and scout ahead. Give me a detailed report." Marsh nodded and went ahead to scout. It looks like what Mr. Gray said was correct. Those mercenaries already formed an alliance with Joss, the head of Glorious Explorers. We should be cautious." The other scouts nodded and followed. Meanwhile, at a certain place, Liam smiled as he saw that Gray had agreed to his deal. Liam smiled and spoke, "It seems, Lord John isn't intending to stop his raids on mercenaries even though the royal family has deployed their troops. Quite a courageous man. Okay, I agree to your deal. We will smuggle food for 4 to 5 times the prices for the next 2 months. I am sure a lot of nobles are willing to make a deal with me. Happy cooperation." Gray nodded as he ordered his man to leave a chest full of coins. He nodded and spoke, "Happy cooperation, Liam. Well, I need to get going. Take this chest of gold coins and 30 armors as an advance and token of our sincerity for this deal. I will leave and meet you later at our agreed point of contact." Ed spoke as Gray left. It seems these guys are on alert today. Liam smiled and spoke as he understood the situation. Well, that is natural after the arrival of General Irwin. Start making preparations, this time we need to make a fortune. These armors will come in handy against our enemies. I can hear the voice of horses marching west. It looks like a show will start soon enough. We can't be left behind. Marsh spotted the mercenaries near the post which were guarded by guards of Dolores and ballistas on the posts. The mercenaries were smiling as they headed inside the borders. Marsh was quite furious, but he soon gained calm after looking at the other 10 scouts. He first decided to report this to Anak. Come, we will first report this to General Anak, it looks like they are provoking us to invade them. One of Arlen's subordinates nodded and followed up. Okay, sir. We will check up on the other side as well since we can't spot the mercenaries belonging to barbarians and baron makers. Anak nodded his head as he heard the reports of Marsh. It seems they are not as big fools as we thought they were. It looks like they want us to invade them. We will do exactly the opposite of that. However, we can't let them relax already since we aren't attacking them. From now on we will be camping here near the borders and start hunting them whenever they come out of their dens. Anak concluded as he gave his orders. We will also be keeping an eye on the barbarians and baron makers. It seems they too are planning something. Okay, we start building post over here 4 kilometers away from them at this hill which will be suitable for siege warfare, and fenced barracks. For our troops. Tell the military corps and engineers to start making camps. I want a decent size castle and bunkers nearby with traps for invaders. It was good that you guys didn't get angry and invade, or the royal family might already have a reason to attack us. We will attack them after we are fully connected with Aurora Island. Marsh nodded as he understood his commander. So that was the reason why Jay didn't report today and you left Arlen at the back. Marsh continued as he carefully looked at the geography. Additionally, this spot would be quite good to patrol and guard the trade route. Okay, men, from on we will be guarding this place. Jim got a bad report and asked irritatingly, what are they doing? Why haven't they raided the caravans yet? One of the head scouts reported, from the looks of our scouts, I think General Anak and his men are camping 2-3 kms outside Dolores near the hills. It seems they don't plan to leave. Even the barbarians and baron makers couldn't be spotted, it is as if they are planning to do something big. Joss, the head of Glorious Explorers, spoke after hearing him. It looks like they don't intend to invade after watching the presence of the royal army north of Dolores. It seems they are cautious. Is there any news from Duke Fjord? One of Joss's men spoke. Yes, my lord, we just got a letter from Duke that we will soon be supplied with their new types of ballistas in a few days since they already made the prototype. From now onwards they will be running 24 hours a day to prepare for this war. It looks like even the royal family is going to ignore the transportation of these weapons. Joss smiled and spoke calmly. It looks like we can endure a few more days and harass them. Jim roared angrily after hearing Joss's timid response. What do you mean we can endure? Do you want us to sit like ducks after such a big mobilization? Humph, I will make sure those don't sleep well at night. General Irwin was looking at the situation with an amused expression as he got new reports. It looks like King Lionheart sending troops over here had a pretty good reason. I guess he wanted to balance the power which those ballistas brought and keep a presence here for our interests. Irwin's subordinate asked with a mischievous smile, do we need to poke them, Lord? Irwin looked at his subordinate curiously and spoke about the situation at length. Why do you want to poke a hornet's nest? Though that count might seem like a rational person. But he isn't when provoked outright by his enemies, which would make him take surprising decisions. Also, we have the Radiant Church to look out for now, and if we engage directly with that count, we might suffer some losses against those ballistas, and that might very well be the time when the Radiant Church would want to reveal their cards. Those old men at church would definitely want to grab this chance to gain full power. As far as the demons go, they might very well align with that count if they can get a piece of Elias' kingdom. Let the mercenaries and that count fight each other for a while. Though it is unlike my usual behavior on poking my nose in all the matters, but this time we have got strict orders from the top, especially Minister Plato. Anyway, one of those guys will inevitably buckle under pressure and attack others. As soon as the night came, Jim had rallied his soldiers, and with one of his most trusted men taking the role of head in this operation, while John was with his men and preparing the camps. John looked at the enemy camp with his telescope and ordered his scouts, "Always keep a lookout on enemies, as they might attack us at night since there is less light. Always be more alert. Though we have our traps, it is always better to be alert." John smiled and thought as he looked in the direction of his enemies, "Let's see if they can take my bait." One of the scouts answered, "Yes, General Anak. We will be alert." Soon a group of 300 men was moving in the direction of John's camp. With the scout ahead, he reported his head, "Lord, it seems their patrols have reduced now that it is night." The head laughed and spoke arrogantly after hearing the report, "Good, just as expected, they are amateurs and nothing without those huge castles, since they are always sleeping well at night with few patrols. I guess our plan might very well work today if we are able to infiltrate and create chaos over there." The head ordered after hearing the report, "Advance fast but without making any big sounds so as not to attract their attention." "Yes, sir." The troops advanced ahead as they were 500 meters away from the perimeter of their enemy's base. The head roared as they advanced, "Advance!" One of the scouts from John's camp noticed their infiltration and immediately shot the gun to signal the whole camp. Hearing the signals one after another from all the scouts, the men got up fast and prepared to go to their posts in an orderly manner. As soon as the horses of their enemies came near their base, they were shocked after the horses fell when they came in contact with barbed fences which just built at the night after the sun came down on John's orders. The enemies fell and the horses behind collided with a lot of men getting injured. John smiled as he ordered, "It seems they finally took the bait. Good, don't kill their head and some of his immediate subordinates. He will be good for a show. We will capture them alive and parade them naked in the whole city. I won't know how long would they endure such humiliation." John smiled and continued, "They think can win against me in psychological games? Kill the others, immediately fire the ballistas and mini ballistas on their middle formation and their rear." Amber nodded as he headed out and ordered others, "Yes, my lord." Marsh thought as he looked at his enemies with pitiful eyes, "Why would you want to fight against such an evil general who doesn't even spare his subordinates in his training sessions? You guys really were looking for death. Meanwhile, what are psychological games, General?" John spoke unconsciously as he observed the battle, "You won't understand, it's a big topic. You should read Count John's book about it in Rose Institute. You will get some idea about it." John thought as he almost gave his cover out, "It's good I didn't reveal myself or it would have been problematic." Marsh looked suspiciously at Anak as he thought about Rose Institute and wondered if he should visit it later on. "Well, since Lord John has written about it, I may as well read it to gain some understanding about this topic." The head of the raiders was in a shock to find that all of them were duped by Anak. He roared as he saw his men getting blasted by the ballistas, "Damn that bloody general! It was all a trap by him so that we would attack them at night. What are these threads which cut the legs of our horses? Is it some new weird shit made by that count?" Amber charged with his team of 20 men towards the head as he attacked with his trademark fire slash against the mercenary head. The head resisted the first attack. The head thought, "It seems he is the new general. I guess this guy still honors having duels. Hee, this might very well be my chance to claim glory even if I die or even get back alive." This time at the next attack, Amber didn't slow down as he slashed the captain at his arm with impeccable speed. He was observing the captain calmly as he dodged the attacks neatly. Amber thought as he clashed, "Just in time, it looks like my training with General Anak was quite useful. From the looks, I think he will soon fall. I guess General Anak's poison was quite good." The head soon realized that he was poisoned after his sluggish movements and roared, Don't you have any honor in a duel as a general?" Amber laughed as he pointed in John's direction, Me and General? Nat, I am just a small captain. General is busy having his midnight snack at the camp. See there. As far as honor is concerned, I don't give a shit about it like my general. My only honor comes from protecting my people with any means possible. You see, my general views war as a fight between two evils. And the one who starts the war for greed is simply more evil. In the end, the one who wins the war claims justice. It is a simple fact that history can teach us. The head of mercenaries was embarrassed to the point that he almost fainted after hearing that Anik was having his midnight snack while the one who he lost against was a rookie captain. Fuck. I am losing to a brat. The head roared and fainted soon after the poison took control of his senses. Very soon, the other 10 guys from his team too were captured by Amber's men. The other remaining men died by a combination of ballistas and mini ballistas with none left alive. John smiled as he saw the 11 prisoners. He spoke after Amber arrived. Good job. These guys will be good enough to parade at the city and the trade routes we are going to control. Amber nodded and answered, yes, General. This would be quite useful against our enemies and can provoke them to take aggressive measures. Chapter 196. John asked about other important matters to Marsh. Any news from the informant? Marsh nodded and gave a letter. Yes, Interior Minister Taylor has prepared men and all the resources required to make a base here. Those men will be traveling here today to fortify the base. John nodded and continued, good, on time as always. Did the informant spoke anything about Jay's operation? Marsh shook his head as he spoke and gave a voice rune to John. No, it was Arlen's subordinate who came to deliver information orally that there were no problems as the ghosts didn't let people enter the northeast zone and cannon results have been over the expectations and their operation is going really well. Minister Jay particularly mentioned that the runic cannons were quite handy and their results were over the top. He feels that they can even fight a group of dragon knights with this cannon. Here is the voice rune which is addressed to you. John nodded as he got the gist of the current situation after hearing the rune. Okay, prepare to fortify the base. Tomorrow we will be hunting them near their base if they come out of that den. We can't let them relax. The next day there was a furor at Jim's base when his men didn't return. Jim asked his subordinate with a grave tone, what happened? Why has not a single guy returned yet? What happened to their operation? The subordinate answered cautiously, Sir, today a horse carriage came with a few dead bodies came and it looks like, those were our men who went out to raid them at night. It looks like there is a serious situation. Jim asked with a grave tone, what sort of situation? Subordinate gave a report from their spies, some of our men are being paraded naked inside North Frontier City and the trade routes. It looks like even Captain is also present among those men. We just got this information from our trader spies. What do we do? Jim was completely furious as he heard this news. They dare to humiliate us in such a way. They certainly are looking for death. Prepare our men to raid their patrols. I can't let this pass away. Joss knew about the incident and knew that Jim would get angry. He spoke in a calm manner, don't get sucked into the pace of our enemies. Who knows, they might be intentionally provoking us to take action. We already know the fate of our men from last night, right? You don't want to ruin the whole plan, right? Hearing Joss, Jim thought a bit and replied with a calm, it seems this is likely the case. Okay. I will listen to you for a while. However, they need to be taught a lesson. Our men would lose morale slowly if don't do something. There wasn't a big reaction from Jim as he thought about it, but currently, his men were being humiliated in the North Frontier City day after day. He was barely able to keep his anger in check. During these 2 days, John had completely built a base as they were patiently waiting for their enemies to come out. During these 2 days, whenever Jim's men headed out to raid near NF City, they were always being hunted by John and his men. They never understood how John and his men were able to spot them so early from a distance, which led to their ambushes. While their own ambushes failed whenever they regrouped, as Anik's men always knew about their positions. Not a single man was able to survive the onslaught of Anak and his men. A lot of ordinary mercenary groups lost their men in big numbers during these 2 days. The mood around North Frontier City was getting better day by day after the robbing incidents were reduced. One of the old men spoke as he looked at the frequent border patrols. "It feels so peaceful these days." One of the commoners laughed and spoke, "Yes. Did you two read the latest paper about the parade of those mercenaries?" Old man, giving a cheeky smile, spoke, "Nat, I actually attended it yesterday." After 2 days, Jim read one of the newspapers to get some political news of North Frontier City and their movements. He roared as soon as he saw an article, "What is this bullshit written in this newspaper? Who is this guy Aldrin? He needs to be taught a lesson to humiliate Gold Rush mercenaries." He was fuming after watching a sketch of his subordinate and his men who were being paraded almost naked by the army men inside NF City. Jim fumed as he continued, "I can't take this humiliation any longer. We need to act. We can't wait any longer for the ballistas to arrive. That enemy general is frigid arrogant after beating 300 of our men. I will show him what is a real army." Joss sighed as he saw Jim. He knew that this would happen as soon as Jim read the newspaper, but he couldn't stop him. He explained, "You see, you are only going to get more provoked if you read that news. We need to endure for some time before we make a thorough plan. They are provoking us, can't you understand that?" Fuming in anger, Jim roared at Joss for his cowardice. "So you mean we should sit back like ducks fearing those ballistas without doing anything? Our name will be ruined if we don't do anything after so much humiliation. The whole nation knows about these incidents already, and you want me and my men to endure?" The morale of our men increased just recently because of the arrival of the Royal Army, but how is it now? Since they can parade our men and humiliate us daily, we might as well as kidnap their men and parade them naked over here. This time I have a plan which will make sure that they can't use their ballistas." Joss furrowed his brows and answered, "Well, I ain't sending my men if you are persisting. I ain't stopping those who want to go. As for that Aldrin guy, he is protected by Secret Service already. Do you think others haven't tried to kill him and make an example? Prince Hector tried a lot as well, only to end in failure with his men being found in the trash. Most of the journalists are already protected by ghosts." Jim tried to intimidate Joss as he roared, "Fuck it, then, I am going alone if you don't intend to join me. I will show them how it is done." Jim's men and some mercenary groups decided to join him after facing such humiliation day after day. Many men were present from their groups in the previous raid during that night. Jim mocked him and went to make preparations. "Humph, you can sit all you want. We ain't attacking their base. We will go past it and attack the traders and village. Let's see if those guys come to save the villages or not. You can rest easy for now. Don't come crying if we keep all the glory and loot." One of the leaders of mercenary groups spoke, "Yes, we can't take this lying down. We already lost enough men to that barbarian general, Anak. He must be taught a lesson. Just previously he humiliated us by killing all of our men fighting single-handedly in an ambush. Who does he think he is? I can't even bear to watch him in my presence." Hearing him, a lot of other guys joined him as well. "Yes. We can't let this slide. We have to take a stand, now or never." 4,000 men from the various groups joined Jim as they prepared for dispatch and create havoc in the nearby villages which had good relations with North Frontier City. Joss sighed and thought, "Geez, these can't wait for the ballistas to arrive and attack later. These guys are impatient at every opportunity. They think they were the only ones who lost men." Marsh and other scouts reported to John after looking at movement at the base of Gold Rushers. John smiled as he heard this. "It looks like they are quite simple. They weren't even able to endure for a few days. Good, getting provoked and suckered so easily is good for us. The newspapers are quite good at angering my enemies. That's why I like these muscleheads. Very well, tell the men that we are leaving. I would like hunting these guys today. Start making preparations. You guys can have your revenge today for Greenwood's village since those Gold Rushers have taken a bait. Marsh reported as he got a letter from Scout. Sir, there is one important report we received from Lord Taylor. John nodded. What is it? Marsh opened the letter and spoke. It looks like Jay and his men were able to complete the mission in the past 3 days. Right now, half of the men are protecting and building the road and other infrastructure to connect to Winter City, while the 1/4 is headed for Winter City. John thought as he read the report, I don't think it was possible to do it this fast. Even with the fastest speed, it would take 4 days at least if they complete the operation without rest. What happened? Explain in detail. Marsh nodded and explained. It looks like Lord Ross too had started to penetrate inside the northern forest from the east and hence double the speed. Even Lord J was surprised after hearing noises in the forest only to find the answer later on. John smiled as he heard Marsh. Good, good. Now this good news for us. About the cannons. Marsh, they are already headed for the borders with 1/4 of our army. However, they aren't going to be used unless the situation is grave as reported by J. Meanwhile, there is one problem, General. John furrowed his brows as he heard Marsh. What is it? Marsh gave another letter which was given by Arlen. It looks like Prince Hector has managed to convince Duke Norman and they are bringing an army to Dolores on the pretext that we invaded them previously. A lot of nobles have joined them, but a lot of other nobles who have a trade relationship with us haven't responded to Duke's call on the pretext of problems with their neighbors and lack of trust. Ghosts have found army movements from a lot of territories. John nodded and he prepared to assault Jim of Goldrushers. A lot of moves already. This doesn't seem normal. Well, we will use the best ballistas for now. No cannons unless the Radiant Church or the royal family react. Okay, let's prepare to head out. Those guys look up to no good from the way they are mobilizing. However, they are up for a surprise today. Jim and 4,000 of his men prepared to charge on their horses. After reaching halfway near the villages, they split in 2 groups. Both heading for different villages. Watching this, Marsh was immediately alerted and reported it to John. Hearing Marsh, John had a grave face as he looked at the directions they were heading. He spoke in a grave tone. Judging by their direction, it looks like they are heading for 2 nearby villages and plan to do something over there. They most likely intend to take hostages. Come, we don't have much time, we are chasing after them. Marsh, you will lead your men to chase the group heading southeast, I will be heading southwest. We can't let the same thing which happened at Greenwood's village happen here again. I am sure everyone understands the significance of this operation. Marsh nodded with a serious as he too lost a friend of his when the Greenwoods village massacre took place. Yes, I will make sure that they can't achieve their goals again. This time they will pay an unimaginable price for their cruelties. Right, men? Marsh roared and asked his men. All of the men responded with their voices full of emotion. Yes, sir. This time all of those guys will be killed without any hesitation. Such men don't deserve our mercy. John nodded after hearing them and left to chase the group with his men at southwest. 1,000 men left with Marsh while John left with the remaining 1,000 men, leaving 500 men to protect his base. Meanwhile, Luke read a report about a blockade at northeast while there was a lot of mobilization taking place over there. He furrowed his brows as he spoke. What are they doing over there that not even officials aren't allowed to enter that place? Ellison nodded and spoke. Yes, sir, it looks serious to me. Many of our spies who tried to get some news from there were found dead today near the city. The only official information provided is that they are building a military factory over there and no one is allowed to trespass over there. It looks like the Count himself is over there since a lot of people weren't able to meet Count directly these days. Even Minister J was moved from the border at the south to northeast as what we know from our spies. Interior Minister Taylor was handling all the official matters currently. So these are my guesses. Or maybe, the beasts have finally started their onslaught and they intend to keep it hidden and pass through the storm quietly. Luke nodded and asked with confusion, when did he become Interior Minister? Ellison nodded and gave a report. Yes, recently he was assigned that post from the Count himself. I think he was given the post before he left for Northeast's military base. Luke thought and spoke, interesting, well, okay, it seems that the beasts may have started something or they are planning something since all of the spies that tried to infiltrate died. Report it to Capital about the current situation. Remember not to miss a single detail. Any other news? Ellison thought a bit and spoke about the previous reports he heard. I think you already know about Gold Rush mercenaries and the frequent raids done by Count John's new general. Recently the instances of robbery have reduced. While Prince Hector and Duke Norman have rallied their men towards the borders of Dolores. They would most likely reach with their army by tomorrow or day after tomorrow. Luke nodded as he knew about those movements. Yeah, I know about it, it doesn't concern us. Let them fight themselves, report me when Lord Irwin moves his troops or the Radiant Church. Okay, my lord. Ellison nodded and left to prepare a report. Chapter 197. Jim was nearing to the village with his men as they saw Marsh and his men coming with frenzy in their eyes. Jim and his men smiled as they spotted Marsh's army and the desperation in their eyes to protect the village. Marsh's men were only 2 kilometers away from them. Jim saw Marsh's angered face and then the villagers as he let out a cruel smile and ordered his men, quick, take them hostage, kill if anyone resists. They won't fire those ballistas if we use civilians. They will be forced to fight in melee. Let's see how they act arrogant now that their fangs are broken. This time that general would not be able to save a single person from his army. Being mercenaries, none of them had any problems obeying his orders as they started taking people hostage or killing them if required. No! One of the villagers roared as he resisted before getting pierced by Jim. One of the mercenary leaders laughed and spoke, seeing Marsh and his men charging at them in desperation. Ha ha ha, let's if they will fire at us now that we have these people hostage. Their arrogance will be crushed today. Their very confidence comes from their ballistas. They are nothing without it. One of the kids shouted as he witnessed the massacre before getting taken hostage. Hey, what are you doing? Marsh cursed as soon as he witnessed the scene. Fuck these shameless assholes. They will resort to any means possible. Don't shoot the ballistas, we will engage them in melee. However, none of these guys will be able to survive. Come rush with me, Amber. Shoot! Shouted the kid as he saw Marsh trying to engage the mercenaries in melee. Jim smiled as he killed the kid while teasing Marsh at the same time. No, the kid roared as his eyes depicted immense anger and pain at his helplessness. Marsh was flabbergasted. Marsh, remembering his previous training, ordered his men, charge. Don't stop. Marsh's men charged at Jim and his men without waiting because they knew that his enemies would anyway kill their hostages and attack them at the same time after watching the previous scene. This time instead, they charged at them so that can't get any time to defend. They instinctively charged as they were trained by John for various scenarios. Looking at Marsh and Amber charging at them, Jim laughed as he ordered, "It seems you can only blame them. Kill them, take some hostages. If you guys want their lives, then drop your weapons." Jim and his men killed some villagers as they created some distance with Marsh and Co while taking some hostages. At this time, it was Amber who roared and charged after looking at the scene and Marsh's indecisiveness. "Men, we can't hesitate since they have hostages. Now is the time to show our resolve. Do you want to see more of the common men die under their hands? Charge and shoot at them." All the officers jolted back to action after hearing Amber's roars, who brought them back to reality. Marsh only realized now how big of a mistake he did previously by not attacking them, and he looked at Amber with an astonished face, who brought back the morale of their unit. Marsh and Amber charged at Jim as they prepared for their first clash. This time Marsh and his men were outnumbered but were full of rage as they charged after watching the massacre. Without waiting for a warcry, the men clashed, and in the first clash, Jim clashed with Amber, who fought him head-on. They were equally matched. Jim was astonished to find that Amber was able to fight him on equal terms, as he was someone who had a lot of experience. Amber thought after his first clash, training with General has certainly improved my senses. I was even able to detect his bloodlust and parry with him almost immediately. That guy was certainly hiding the real length of his sword. Jim was surprised as he looked at Amber and then found that 400 of his men fell from the first assault while not a single man from the enemy fell. Jim thought as he looked at Amber curiously, this rookie is quite dangerous being able to fight with me on par. He was able to rouse his army after such a psychological shock. This guy needs to die. Jim looked at his enemies and his men as he exclaimed after looking at the result, how is this possible? Do you have any reason? Jim's subordinate explained as he observed something, it's because of those armors. While our armors weren't able to do anything against their weapons. We are certainly fighting on a handicap. Jim then noticed that a lot of guys were rescued by the soldiers as a lot of their enemies also had scar marks on their armors and his men weren't able to penetrate them. He nodded and understood. Marsh immediately ordered his men after getting out of his lull, fire your mini ballistas. Make sure to target their horses. If possible, target to kill those guys who don't have any hostages. Marsh looked at Amber and nodded as he thought, I am glad that this guy joined us today. Immediately, Marsh's men took their mini ballistas and fired in the direction of their enemy as they switched to their swords and immediately charged ahead. Jim immediately gave orders after the first assault, we are leaving, we will regroup with them and attack again. They have peculiar armors, very hard to penetrate, which is very unfavorable for us in this battle. We will try fighting them in the forest. Sandro smiled and said after spotting Jim and his men leaving their base, it looks like that rookie has finally decided to act. Shall we start as well? He would make for nice cannon fodder for us. Wilkins licked his lips and said with a cruel smile, yes, we can't miss this opportunity. After all, we already possess this. Meanwhile, from the reports, it seems that their defense minister, Jay, is not at the borders. This is a good chance for us. The Radiant Church has also given permission to use it. This time, that Count will be quite shocked to find that things won't go according to his wishes. He is just a small fish with a heap of gold and weapons which he shouldn't possess. Ha ha ha. Sandro nodded as he left with Wilkins. At John's side in southwest, he was chasing the Gold Rush mercenaries. He and his men immediately charged towards Jim's subordinate who was heading for the village with his men. Knowing the dilemma, John immediately ordered his men to shoot the ballistas and mini ballistas at their enemy's group. Looking at the ballistas and mini ballistas firing from a distance, a lot of commoners were alerted and headed inside their houses. They were quite frightened after this sudden action. Looking at John's ruthless reaction, Jim's subordinate shivered as he saw the ruthless cold-blooded eyes which wouldn't even blink if they took hold of hostages. He found himself in a pit as his men were going to face the ballistas. Some of the mercenaries took hostages to save their lives, but the mini ballistas didn't stop as they immediately targeted them while the big ballistas shot the rear end of the mercenaries who weren't able to get hold of hostages. John himself took one of the mini ballistas and shot them at one by one. All of them were shot in the head without missing the target. One of the guys near Jim's subordinate was shot by John's arrow. The guy was shot with an arrow on his head. John smiled as he looked at their enemy general, which said that he wouldn't care even if they took hostages and was intending to catch him. John smiled as he looked at the enemy general and roared, "Do you really think I am a guy who is this weak-hearted in front of petty morals? Remember this, I am not a knight. I am a ghost who doesn't mind doing dark dirty deeds." Chapter 198. John continued and roared at his men who were hesitating after looking at the hostages, "Shoot your enemies, it would be a bigger crime from our part if we can't eliminate such pests who take civilians as hostage. Don't hesitate and remember your training, keep the belief in your training and it will be possible. Remember this, you don't have to fear anything, you have my back even if anything goes wrong. These guys will only create a bigger menace when they invade our lands. Do you want to see such massacres again? Shoot them to protect your beloved ones. Remember they are the same guys who did the Greenwoods village massacre." After hearing John's roar and speech, all of the guys who were hesitating previously shivered as they got goosebumps hearing their general and the fate of their loved ones. Without any hesitation, they roared and shot immediately, "Yes, sir. These pests will be a bigger danger. They can't be left alive. Shoot them to prevent future massacres." The enemy head cursed as he heard John's roar and looked at the death of his colleague who had a hostage on him. He looked at John's cold smile and cursed, "Damn, why would I have to face such a ruthless general? How the fuck did Jim thought that this guy will not use his ballistas? They are insolently using ballistas without any remorse. Doesn't that count? Loves his civilians." He ordered with an irritated face to his men, "These hostages will be a burden. Drop those hostages immediately and focus on our enemies. We would face a bigger loss if we continue with this farce. Fast." John switched to his sword as he smiled and charged alone into the enemy camp. His men only followed behind him after looking at their general charging straight to the enemy's head. One of the subordinates roared and charged as he followed his general, "We can't be left behind. Follow General Anak. Leave the enemy head for General Anak. This time, they will pay a bloody price for underestimating us." The commoners ran for their lives as they freed themselves from their enemies. This time, during the clash, a lot of enemies were frightened as they ran with their horses for their lives in another direction where Head Jim was raiding. The enemy general clashed with John as he was slashed by John's space slash in no time. The general never knew what hit him. He immediately fainted as the other mercenaries around him were flabbergasted as they saw Anak fighting alone with numerous enemies. With incredible movements, John was able to dodge the attacks and attack his enemies at the same time. Each slash of John reaped the life of his enemies as the soldiers on both sides were flabbergasted and surprised to see such super fast skills of John. Like a ghost, his movements were barely seen by his enemies while they never knew what took their life. His feet could barely be seen as it seemed that a ghost had entered a battlefield. The battlefield was in a lull whenever John moved. One of the guys roared as he tried to stab John from behind, however, before he knew, he already had his throat slit. "Whoa, whoa, how did I get slit in my throat? Help, heal me fast." He spoke hoarsely only to die later on as no one came to his help. One of the guys at back remarked as he observed Anak, "Fuck, is this guy a monster? See his friggin' unbelievable movements. Can we really fight such a guy who has such skills and weapons? I don't think even Boss Jim can fight this guy." Another guy nodded and spoke, "No wonder, Count John made this guy his chief general. I think he might be comparable to the strongest man in Elias, General Leo, the Ruthless. Fuck it, I ain't fighting an army of such a monster. I heard, last time he killed all of his enemies. I don't want to face the same fate. You can die in this battlefield if you want." He immediately left after watching the carnage which John was leaving behind on the battlefield. One of John's subordinates remarked as he watched Anak in surprise, "Ha ha ha, it seems these guys really managed to piss off General. From the looks, it seems that the General is usually only toying with us in our training." One of the newbies was surprised as he watched the show. He exclaimed, "So these are real skills of a top-level ghost, I never knew that General was this strong. He is completely owning the enemies when in fact he is actually surrounded by them. These guys are actually taking their steps back in fear whenever General charges forward. They can't even get a hold of him. So this the strongest ghost of our domain, coming like a wind within dark creating havoc and terror for his enemies." He marveled as he watched his general slashing his enemies with his pure dark red sword without blinking his cold-blooded eyes. He was barely able to follow his general as he grew excited and charged at his enemies after watching his general. The veteran nodded and charged, "Come, don't lag behind. Charge, these guys will certainly pay for their insolence. Our mission is not over yet." "Ah, he already left. I guess this is the work of hot blood." The veteran nodded as he saw the rookie charging with the vanguard. A lot of the people in the enemy camp deserted the battle in panic after watching the fate of their captain and their other colleagues. There was no order in their camp after John took the enemy's head while John's army charged at them with incredible furor. Very soon the enemy's army collapsed as many deserted the battle and headed towards Jim while others died. John roared at the conclusion of the battle, "Okay, stop chasing. Come back." At the conclusion of the battle, 300 people were able to escape while 700 of his enemies died. While John's men were only injured, some gravely while some lightly, as they had the advantage of healing magic and other accessories which clearly showed the difference in battle power. John healed the head of their enemy and immediately got back to heal the villagers and the hostages who were near death because of the raid of Gold Rush mercenaries. All of the guys were astonished after looking at their general. John roared, "What are you guys waiting for? Treat the villagers immediately. And keep that guy alive. He will be useful. I want to ask him some questions." All the soldiers answered and immediately got to work and started treating the villagers. With a feeling of pride after looking at their general, the army roared in unison, "Yes, sir." One of the soldiers saw one of the commoners who was smiling while getting treated. "Sir, why are you smiling? Even though we shot at you guys without hesitation, you are still full of life." The commoner smiled and answered, "It's because your general saved more lives by being decisive, or else I think more of us would have lost our lives instead of 7 guys only. I am glad that general ordered to shot, which gave me and my mates a chance to escape. Or else even you might have lost your lives if you succumbed to their vile methods. I am sure the guys who died would be happy knowing that they were avenged. Meanwhile, who are you guys that came to our rescue? Are you from the capital?" The rookie was shocked and understood the reason for his general's order. The rookie proudly pointed towards their flag, which had a thorny rose with multiple colors, with the sun in the background. The sun signified hope, and answered, "We are men from Count John's army. He is our general, named Anak, who is leading us." The villager nodded as he smiled and laid back to rest. He had a calm and peaceful face as he rested. He nodded and immediately treated the man as he continued doing the same for others. After healing all the villagers, John asked the enemy general with a face without any emotions, "So I will be asking you some questions. If you answer truthfully, you won't suffer any pain. If you don't answer, I will make sure that Arkan is hell for you." The enemy general looked at John with horror as he opened his eyes. "You?" John ignored him straight and placed his questions. "So who ordered you guys to hunt any villagers who escaped the Greenwoods village? I want straight answers." Upon not getting an answer, John immediately thrust the black miracle potion into his mouth, which increased his sensitivity, and proceeded to cut one of his fingers. The enemy general screamed as soon as he found that he lost one of his fingers. He screamed madly, which could raise the hairs of anyone, as John ordered his men, "Keep healing him. I will make sure this guy answers me today. Don't let him faint again." Everyone shivered as they heard John's order and obeyed immediately. John asked him again as he showed a cruel smile, "Are you sure you want to keep your mouth shut, because I would like torturing you for quite some time? Who knows what sort of body parts you would lose? You see, I previously worked in Ghost Division and I won't mind doing gory stuff. As far as your body parts are concerned, it would depend on my mood and which one is more annoying." The guy soon came to his senses and spoke hoarsely, No, I will speak. Please don't, not that pain again. It was on orders of Prince Hector and Baron Antonio that we decided to do the previous bidding and killed the escapees. It was solely for business. We wanted you to take the blame for that incident. Unfortunately, some people were able to escape that massacre. A lot of villagers were shocked to find out this revelation and crushed. How could that prince do this to us? I lost my childhood friend because of you guys, and I always blamed the count for this deed. I can't believe this. Kill this bastard, he can't live." One of the old men roared as he heard him, "Yes, this is a clear betrayal. I ain't trusting my life to that brat, Antonio." No wonder Baron Mendez was nowhere to be seen when that incident took place. It looks like those papers made a correct assessment that Antonio was Prince Hector's lackey, and it was quite a big coincidence that Greenwood's village massacre and his appointment as an heir coincided. I am sure these guys did something to Baron Mendez so that they don't face opposition. The old lady at the village fumed as she almost lost the life of her son. I will be heading to North Frontier City straight thing right now. Previously I was skeptical, but now after this incident, I am sure that Prince Hector would want us dead. We better leave now. I will make sure that my son becomes a proud soldier of North Frontier City. Make Prince Hector pay the price for targeting us. The other people joined as they heard her. Yes, spread this message to other nearby villages as well. Those guys at Dolores anyway hate us because of our recent development. Those mercenaries have done a lot of evil deeds as they have neared the borders of NF City. Just previously one of my friends lost his son and daughter to those bandits. One of the old men spoke. Fuck it, I am bringing my son back from their night institute, which would only make him do immoral deeds. I won't let him stay there a second longer. The enemy general was getting beaten black and blue by villagers as he died when John penetrated his heart without flinching. None of the villagers showed any remorse as they knew the plans of these mercenaries. Many people started heading to other villages to spread the news. John ordered his men and got ready to chase the mercenaries who escaped previously. Come, we don't have much time. One of the veterans smiled as he looked at John and the villagers. So this was the reason that General wanted that man alive. I guess this will have a snowball effect when the news reaches other nearby villages. One of the guys asked, General, why are we going in this direction? Didn't they escape to the east? John smiled as he looked towards west and spoke with a ruthless glint which clearly indicated that he would be doing something big. Well, they will, in the end, have to run to their base in the east, I have no doubt on my men. So it's better if we try to shorten the distance. We also need to teach that prince a thorough lesson after his recent conspiracy. We need to attack that arrogant prince's ego. The rookie soldier nodded as he understood Anak's line of thinking. Now I understand. You surely are a genius, my lord, to think so far ahead. Chapter 199. Jim was heading towards the direction of John when he encountered his men coming his way one by one. He asked the panicked men, Hey! What's happening? Why are you guys running away in panic? What happened over there? Did someone else act? One of the guys spoke, Boss, it is bad. Our plan didn't work according to our expectations. That general is very ruthless, he shot those ballistas at us without hesitation even when we had the hostages. And that general, he is a monster. He is clearly a monster. We can't fight him. They are heading our way, we need to run and change our direction. Even commander is dead. He died in one attack of that general even with that runic armor. This is very dangerous. Jim was shocked after hearing the report from his men. He never thought that Anak was this powerful. He thought, damn, these guys are quite scared. From the looks of it, they faced a brutal response from that guy. The very scared faces of his men clearly indicated their fear and the ruthlessness they experienced against Anak. He gnashed his teeth as he clearly didn't want to run, but he accepted the reality and current situation. He knew that he can't win against such a powerful general and he had to take the help of other parties to get his revenge for such humiliation. Jim looked back towards Marsh and his men as he ordered his men to kill those hostages and ran in full pace towards their base inside their borders as they were clearly in danger against Anak and his men. Jim murmured as he headed towards southwest towards Dolores. He frustratingly murmured, where the fuck did they find such a guy? Why have I never heard about such a guy over the years? He should have been famous if that was the case. Even I can't fight against my men without getting a scratch and being surrounded by them. That guy clearly is from the Ghost Division. Is he Vlad of the Dark in a disguise and leading their men? Only that guy was able to create such horror among the armies of demons and humans alike. He murmured as he continued to go past the forest. Even after such schemes, we weren't even able to kill a handful of his men with 4,000 men. Those armors shouldn't make this much of a big difference. Such a big humiliation can't be washed away unless that guy dies or faces the same humiliation which our men did. Soon Jim and his men were just 2.5 kilometers away from the borders of Dolores. Jim gave a signal from here for the guards to open the border, which the guards complied. They also started loading the ballistas as they saw General Anak and his army from the sides. As Jim continued to rush with his men, he saw that an army led by Anak was coming to attack them from their sides. Soon Jim's men faced the attacks of many ballistas from the sides. It was a total massacre as arrows rained down on the mercenaries. Jim saw that Anak was giving out a cruel smiling as he charged towards him with a powerful war cry that shook the heavens. John's men chased them from the sides while Marsh and his men were surprised to find Anak and his team attacking their enemies from the sides and creating such an ambush. During this first clash, Jim lost 600 plus of his men, however he and 300 of his colleagues managed to run near the borders. The border gate was open as Jim entered there with 300 his men. During this time the guards shot their ballistas towards John and their men as they seemed to chase inside. Jim roared to the guards as he entered, "Close the Phrygian gate and fire at them already. He would kill me if not done now." The guards were pretty much scared after looking at the ruthless attack of Anak to his enemies in the previous clash. They attacked John's men on the orders of their captains. On Jim's order, they soon fired their ballistas with more fervor, however they didn't even reach John and his men when the projectiles reached them. John had raised his hand and stopped his men from charging as he had spotted the ballistas earlier. Soon both the armies, led by John and Marsh, stopped around 1-2 kilometers away from the gates. As John and Marsh stopped, Marsh, with a grave face, came near Anak. With his head and knees lowered, he spoke, "I am sorry, General, I failed at the mission to protect the nearby village. Jim and his men were able to kill 125 villagers when they took them hostage. It was all my fault." John furrowed his brows as he heard about the casualties, but he didn't bicker as he immediately ordered, "Remember this, you need to be ruthless on a battlefield and clearly distinguish between allies and enemies. This was your first biggest battle, and from this, you experienced some intricacies of war. If you don't want to be hurt in the future, be prepared next time in the future for such situations. Meanwhile, I don't want any of you defying my orders in this operation. Is it clear to everyone?" Everyone replied immediately, "Yes, sir." John nodded and continued. He looked at the big walls with cold, ruthless eyes which reflected his desire to burn it all down. Some guards on the walls were immediately scared after watching those eyes. He ordered his men, "Go and prepare the ballistas. We are downing those watchtowers behind the walls. Since they dared to attack us and give shelter to mercenaries openly while we were exercising our right to punish them, they too must be punished for their crime." One of the scouts from Dolores shivered as he looked straight into John's eyes. "Man, that guy is scary. This situation doesn't look good. We need to inform the captain immediately." Marsh and others were surprised at the order, and Marsh immediately asked, "Lord, you mean we are invading Dolores already?" John smiled as he spoke with a mischievous and angry tone, "No, we are simply giving them a simple lesson for collaborating with the mercenaries and attacking us. We will kill all those mercenaries and collaborators and leave. We are simply burning down a mercenary base, nothing more, nothing less." A lot of people were shocked at this proclamation while some smiled after listening to the justification. Anak, one of the veterans, laughed as he heard John from the front, "Ha ha ha, good, General is very good at sophistry. He should be a lawyer." This time Marsh didn't hesitate and nodded immediately as he completely lost any pity he had for his enemies after watching the previous massacre and the death of that child who asked him to shoot previously. Looking at the mask and the tone of Anak, a lot of people shivered and didn't voice their objections. They understood that their general was out for blood against his enemies, even if it was Prince Hector present himself. John continued as he roared at his army and gave a war cry, "This time today, they will see the real power of the ballistas. Bring in the runic projectiles. This would bloody teach them a lesson. I have had enough of these games with these assholes. They really need a wake-up call on what it means to provoke this general. No mercy to those mercenaries and their collaborators." All the soldiers roared in unison as they heard their general, "No mercy to those mercenaries and their collaborators. Burn down this base." One of the soldiers excitedly roared along, damn, I never thought we will be attacking those bloody mercenaries today. They have surely angered our general on a wrong day. Second soldier nodded and spoke, yes, General Anak quite understands the feelings of us soldiers. Previously I was always frustrated to keep myself in control at the borders when they attacked the trade caravans daily without any fear, as they knew that we wouldn't patrol above a certain threshold. I guess this is also one of the reasons why General Anak is popular recently, because of his aggressive actions. For the first time, we felt that those mercenaries felt fear every time General moved with his army. The guards at Dolores were shaken after hearing the roar of John and his army, which shook the heavens. The vibrations of the roar reached the enemy walls as they watched this scene stupor. One of the officers came out of his quarters and asked, Hey, what is going on? What are they doing? Why aren't they leaving already? That roar feels so ominous on different levels. I simply shivered as soon as I heard it. Who is the leader of those men that can rouse such a war cry from a small group of 2,500 soldiers? Another guard looked at John's army with a grave face and spoke, it seems he is the rumored guy, Anak, the ever-burning. No wonder those mercenaries were in fear these days. Currently, I don't think this is good for us from the way they are moving currently. I think we shouldn't have provoked them previously by firing the ballistas. The first guard looked at the walls and sighed with relief, it's good that we have fortified our walls recently, or it would have been a total massacre from the looks of it. They anyway can't target us since we are on high ground while both of the ballistas have the same range. The other guy looked at the ballistas of his enemies and their walls as he spoke, I think the walls were fortified because of the presence of Prince Hector. He had also fortified the castle. As for those ballistas, we can't be sure yet, as they could have hidden a lot of things. Jim and his men sighed with relief as they entered their camps. Jim looked at Anak with eyes full of anger as he cursed him, damn it, this mission was a total failure. I will fuck that general and count up. They dare to humiliate my men in such way. Looking at the commotion near the walls of Dolores, Joss immediately came out with his men as he saw Jim, who was breathing heavily after the previous failure. He looked around and found that only 300 plus men came with Jim, while John came with his whole army of 2,500 men. He had an ominous foreboding as he heard a big roar which belonged to John and his men. From inside the walls, a lot of people had a sense of danger as they heard the cries of war drums from across the battlefield. Joss asked Jim with a grave tone, what happened? Where are others? Didn't you say that you had a perfect plan to nullify those ballistas? Jim's eyebrows creased as he heard Joss's investigating behavior. What? You looking for a fight now that you see my miserable condition? Joss shook his head and asked seriously, no, I want to know what happened. I already know that you guys lost from the condition of your men. Don't you see that guy is planning to invade us? Inform me quickly. I might have a chance to defeat them. Joss pointed at the direction of Anak as he spoke angrily. Jim irritatingly answered as he knew that enemies were at their door and infighting would be fatal for them right now if the enemy decides invades them. He answered, all of them are dead, this general is far more ruthless than I imagined he was. He is just like Prince Lukov, who won't mind killing civilians if they come in his way. No, he is worse in a sense that he is capable of influencing people to his narrative. Meanwhile, their armors and weapons are really on another level. We just confirmed it in our last battle. It was still good that we were able to kill those villagers who will, in the end, blame that count. In regards to weapons, I think only the magic swords produced by Lore family can be useful against them. However, only the royal guards own them or the officers possess them. They aren't even sold in the black market. What plan do you have currently, because I don't think there is any need now that we are behind the walls. That general can't do anything to us behind their walls, as the guards here too have the ballistas. Meanwhile we are under the protection of Prince Hector and Baron Antonio. All that guy can do is fluster and buster at our doors. Joss understood the situation, that they most probably tried their well-tested method of taking hostages that backfired on them this time around. Joss nodded as he smiled after thinking about his plan and pointed at a direction. See there, you might be surprised after watching this. Our wait is finally over. You should have waited previously before taking any actions, you got baited and see the results. Well, it's good that you came well and alive. We might still have a good chance to eat the whole of NF City alone. He continued with a smile as he pointed towards ballistas. With Duke Fjord's men and Radiant Church's money, they were able to make these ballistas. With this weapon, we can invade those castles. Currently, they have supplied a total of 35 ballistas. Even if that count manages to invade the walls, the only thing waiting for his small group of men is death. Chapter 200. After John's army made all the preparations, all the enemies were surprised to find 30 ballistas pointing at their directions from quite a distance. To be exact, 1x the range of their own ballistas. And 3x the range of ballistas owned by Jim and Joss. John spoke to his men with a cold tone, "Prepare the ballistas and aim all the watchtowers that have ballistas. You guys don't need to worry about Prince Hector or anyone for the matter. Start making preparations to shoot." "Yes, my lord." The roar of soldiers was heard throughout the battlefield. Jim observed carefully and laughed as he looked at his enemies. Have those guys gone senile? Do they really think that they can hit us from that distance of 1+ km even if they use the runic ballistas? Ha ha ha, morons, as expected from the men of that upstart. It seems my plan still worked in provoking them to attack Dolores. Joss nodded as he smiled, agreed with Jim. True, Prince Hector and Duke Fjord might be happy with you guys for once now that they are going to attack the borders. It seems your relation with Prince Hector and Fjord came in handy to ally both of those guys, which were nearly impossible previously. Joss looked at John's eyes for the first time as he got intimidated as their eyes made contact. He murmured, "Fool, thinking he can pull a miracle now that all the cards in our hands. He will pay the price for his arrogance." Jim laughed as he stopped after hearing something. "Well." John roared after the preparations were made, "Fire!" Boom! 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 The ground shook as soon as the ballistas were fired. The nearby animals had long fled after watching the previous battle. Suddenly multiple ballistas hit the ballistas on the roofs of walls. The watchtowers on the walls and inside the walls immediately caught with fire as soon as the runic ballistas hit them. It seemed that Battle Tower was sprayed with oil, which only made it worse for them. There was complete chaos on watchtowers as they caught fire. Men inside the watchtowers were burning while some got torn into shreds as they got caught by the projectile. Whoa, what is this? Almost everyone got surprised after the first shot by all the ballistas. For the first time, all the soldiers on the wall felt fear after watching the fate of their ballistas and watchtowers. All of them shivered as panic gripped them for the first time. One of the officers came out of his office as he heard the first sound of explosions. "Attack the enemies, what are we doing? Why are you standing here like ducks?" One of the guys answered, "Sir, it isn't possible, look at the position of the enemy ballistas. Our ballistas won't reach them even with runic projectiles." The head cursed, "Oh God, why is this happening? Who are they?" The subordinate answered, "It's General Anik of Count John's domain. I think they are attacking us because we stopped their path with our ballistas when they were chasing the head of gold rushers, Jim. We did it because of clear-cut orders given by Prince Hector and Baron Antonio to provide shelter to them. And attack Count John's men if they try to chase them inside this border camp. Sir, how do we proceed further?" The officer murmured as he remembered his conversation with Prince Hector when they decided to shelter mercenaries. Fuck, why is this happening? Don't they know that today's actions would make them hostile to the royal family and other guys? Wasn't it already predicted that they won't take actions unilaterally as they are blocked on all the sides and would have to bear the mercenaries? Is this action taken by that general unilaterally? Fuck, why is this happening now? Why must we become the cannon fodder for the start of this war? Maybe that Count doesn't know about it. Fuck that Jim for provoking him. Officer immediately cursed as he prepared a letter and handed it over to his subordinate. The most surprising thing is the current range of those ballistas. This is out of our expectations, I hope nothing untoward happens today, as this is a very delicate situation. Damn, I need to inform Prince Hector and Baron Antonio. Go and hand this letter to Prince or Baron only." He nodded and immediately left for Dolores. One of the guys handling the ballistas roared hoarsely, "How the fuck is this possible? Our ballistas can't even reach them. Even with runic ballistas, they are only improved by 40%, which is insufficient. We need to leave or we will die, they are already targeting our ballistas. How are they able to pinpoint us so easily from such a distance?" The ballista teams under John were using the telescope to pinpoint enemy positions. Each team had a guide who specialized in locating the enemy as he guided their teams to attack their enemies without stopping. Both Jim and Joss were immediately alerted as they looked at the burning watchtowers. It was one of the most horrific incidents which influenced the morale of soldiers inside the camp. One of the ballistas aimed by Amber's team just got past Jim and Joss as it missed them. They looked at their enemies with incredulity. Fear slowly crept and came to their throats for the first time. Cursed Jim as he ran, "Fuck!" They ran to their camps in panic and started to prepare their men. Joss was overwhelmed as he looked at Anik with astonishment and fear. "What the fu, how is this possible? This is dangerous. We need to destroy those ballistas at any cost." John ordered his men without stop, "Don't stop, load and fire. Target the ballistas and watchtowers without any stop. Let's see how long they can resist this barrage. Men, ready your mini ballistas as well if they try to approach our siege weapons. Drip your arrows in poison that was previously distributed to you in attack." Amber laughed as he saw Jim and Joss. He laughed and headed towards one unit of the vanguard. "Ha ha ha, look at their fear and surprise. Do they really think that we would give up all of our military secrets? Those pussies." Jim and Joss surely run faster than a rabbit after getting a scare. "I wish it would have hit their dicks. Ha ha ha, Captain, you will kill us with your jokes first instead of our enemies." All the men laughed as they heard Amber and his ridicule. Both Jim and Joss looked at Amber with anger as humiliation soon swept them after a moment of fear. While Marsh looked at his enemies with cold eyes that were devoid of any mercy for his enemies after the previous massacre. Marsh thought, it would have been better if it really hit that rapist, Jim's dick. Damn, what am I thinking after getting influenced by that rookie? All the enemies were in a panic as they tried to save their ballistas and put out the fire created by explosions. They were carrying drums of water as they tried to save their ballistas, however, it was of no use. One of the guards of Antonio spoke in a surprised manner as he witnessed the explosions. "Is this for real? That general is really insane. Doesn't he know the consequences of such actions? This will be big." Jim asked Joss in a serious manner, "How many soldiers do we have currently?" Joss replied as he sighed and looked at the battlefield, 25,000 excluding the 7,000 border corps of Prince Hector and Baron Antonio. Joss grumbled as he tried to think rationally, did we really miscalculate the actions of our enemies this time around? Aren't they afraid of the complete blockade? I guess we will bear the burnt as we pushed them into the corner. No, I can't let this happen. This problem was started by this fool in the first place. Why did I even ally with this fool in the first place? Maybe I should take my chance in killing that count for once. Nah, I should conclude my other operation, this fool will anyway get killed." Jim spoke in a grave tone as he watched the continuous barrage of ballistas. "We can't let this continue any longer. We will only be waiting for our deaths if we let this continue. We will be charging out immediately. We should organize a team to destroy their ballistas. One as bait and other the main force." Joss nodded as he neither agreed nor did he disagree. Nearly 60% of the ballistas on the walls were as good as gone after the first attack. There was a complete panic among soldiers. While John's men were spotting the ballistas, Prince Hector's captain roared as he spoke via sound stone rune towards John after handing over the letter, "General Anik, how dare you attack Dolores? Don't you fear the consequences of your actions? Even your lord, Count John, wouldn't support you over these actions. You guys are already facing a blockade on food, Do you want to suffer more? Don't blame me if you face a complete blockade. I order you to take back your men immediately. Apologize to us or face the consequences." Anak laughed loudly as he teasingly spoke via his sound stone. "Attack Dolores? Nat, I am simply attacking mercenaries and their collaborators. I am sure Baron Mendez and Prince Hector don't know about some traitors in his army who are collaborating with mercenaries responsible for the massacre of Greenwood's village. Since you guys dared protect mercenaries who are our enemies, you guys are equally responsible for both the massacres. If your prince is involved in it, then he too will face the same bells. As far as your threat is concerned, why don't you guys try it? As long as you guys don't hand over Goldrush and other mercenaries, this attack will continue. If you guys come in my way, I don't mind killing all of you guys. You shouldn't worry about Count John, as I was given full authority when it comes to eliminating mercenaries from our borders. If you come in my way, then you too would be considered as mercenaries by me and my men. Don't beg and front me later on when you and your men face death. You." The captain pointed at Anak's face with a face full of anger. A lot of soldiers on the walls too were angered after hearing John's speech and roared. The angered men spoke. "Boss, what are we waiting for? We have to teach that arrogant bastard. He dares call us collaborators." Watching the finger, John stared at him with cold-blooded ruthless eyes as he provoked him. "What? You wanna fight?" Watching those eyes which leaked bloodthirsty killing intent, the captain was completely taken back as he experienced fear for the first time just by watching the eyes. He had only seen these sorts of eyes from General Irwin and other generals. John coldly ordered as they started targeting the remain ballistas, "Continue firing. Target them if anyone comes out of those gates. We are moving ahead." Hearing this, a lot of mercenaries were angered, however they didn't look in the eyes of the enemy general and rant. Instead only ranting behind the back as they feared that Anak might remember their face.